Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of StarSound Speaks. This is your host, Liana Samsara, episode 115. So today I'm talking about Leo season, and August astrology. So I'm going to give you a quick walk through the various transits that are coming this way for the month. And we also, I figured, it being Leo season, which is my birthday month, August being my solar return coming up again. So naturally, no bias, of course, my favorite month. So I thought I would tell you some really cool stories that relate to Leo. So true stories and funny, and I think you'll enjoy them. So anyway, before we get started with the fun stuff, we will get right to it. So Leo season, okay. We had the full moon. We have 2 full moons in Leo this month. So it's a lot of Leo energy. It's a lot about demanding our attention. The full moon at Leo was the other day at 1 degree. And as I said, it was intense. And this is why this broadcast, by the way, is a day late, because I had a little episode, some health sharing, health challenges, and very much related to my chart and the stars. Anyway, and then we have the new moon in Leo on August 8th, and then we'll have a final full moon at 29 degrees. So at the beginning of the sign and the end of the sign, 29 degrees Leo Aquarius at the end of August. So, which actually is the 22nd of August. So anyway, so a lot of Leo energy. And what is Leo? Well, it's a fire sign, obviously. And it is fixed fire. So it's a fixed fire sign. So if you think about fire in terms of the elements, when we think about the element and divine light and divinity coming down and establishing itself into the earth plane, we think about fire is first, right? It's the light, right? And then the air descends. And so things start to coalesce a little more into the 3rd dimension. So the element of air follows fire, and then it gets a little more dense. Then water, the water element, and then finally earth. So earth is the densest of the elements, obviously, it's like the idea of us being from pure spirit, and then how soul becomes embodied into the 3rd dimension. So fire signs, very close to divinity, right? If you have any planets in fire signs, the sun or any planet, it's definitely very, very close. And of course, Leo being ruled by the sun, right? We don't have a planet ruling our sun. We have the sun ruling our sun, right? And so I'm the boss. No, negative side of Leo, pardon me. Yeah, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Anyway, the no pun intended, but the bright side of Leo is that divinity light. It's shining our light. It's being courageous and passionate and brave and playful, right? Think of like little lion cubs playing around with mama. Leos can be very protective, of course. Don't mess with my playtime. Don't mess with me, right? Because as the lion said in the Wizard of Oz, I am the king of the forest, right? But of course, underneath that all, look at that archetype. Underneath it all, he was really scared, right? He was like, that's why they called him like the cowardly lion. But he really was. He was just not in touch with his courage, right? So until the very end. And so it's interesting because this is where we draw so much from these archetypes, So Leo, the lion, the brave heart, right? That's just so Leo. Cur Leonis, the fixed star Regulus, is in at 29 degrees of Leo, which is now gone into 1 degree of Virgo after 2,000 years being at 29 degrees of Leo. It is shifted into 0 Virgo, but that's the Cur Leonis, the heart of the lion in the constellation Leo. So anyway, yes, it's about bravery, about fun, about being courageous. So with the sun in Leo, this is our season to have fun, to be brave, We don't want to be Mick Jagger. We are we are Mick Jagger. That archetype is in us, you know, and it gets to come out and play in Leo season. So I would just say to you, have fun. All right. Yeah, there's some challenges here along the way. Nothing that we can't handle. You know, we've got this, right? This month. So yes, I would say, you know, also observe cats. Cats are a great, there's our Leo archetype. It's very simple. If you have a cat as a pet or know someone who has a cat as a pet, they run the house, right? They own the house. You do not own, you know, your name may be on a mortgage, but you don't own that house. You know it, right? And that's and how to treat a Leo. Well, obviously with respect, petting cats, right? We love you, we love you, we love you. It works. And I love that my most favorite annoying thing is, of course, they're the kings and the queens. So when they insist they have to come in, you know, at the patio door, and then you finally open the door, it's like, okay. And then they stand there and they stand and they look and they lie down and they roll on their back. And it's like, hello, I am air conditioning or heating the neighborhood. Hello, you know, but you have to wait. It's like, ah. So if you have friends who exhibit these characteristics, please be kind and love them unconditionally. They will love you forever for it. And you better be loyal, right? There's one thing that we cannot stand is disloyalty, because that hurts like hell. Anyway, so there's just some fun stuff there. Anyway, so let's talk about what is going on here with the planets. Jupiter is going to head back into Aquarius. Hold on a second, let me just check my dates here. Yeah, okay, so on Wednesday, July 28th, we are going to have Jupiter move back into the sign of Aquarius, and that's where it will stay until December 28th. So for the next 5 months, it will be in the sign of back in Aquarius. And, you know, one of the things many people saw about that was that we might have to go back to more, you know, mandatory mask wearing and things like that with COVID. And honestly, you know, here it is, it hasn't even gone back there yet. And already there's talk of that. And when you think about Pisces, it being in the sign of Pisces, you know, that was Pisces rules infections. And so Jupiter, it brings expansion and an increase. So, you know, but it also brings a divine grace and luck. So we've been having, you know, we can see where we had a bit of both, but I would say too, with this Delta variant that we've, you know, heard about in the news, there's been a huge increase of that. And so this whole tussle going on with, you know, lockdown versus, or bringing back masks or lockdown or what have you. And, you know, here's like the UK, for example, they were just celebrating the reopening of all their bars and restaurants, like the lifting of all restrictions. But at the same time, wasn't, what's his name, was in quarantine, Boris Johnson. And also just the whole idea about the increase, it just, you know, went off the charts again. So it's just so crazy, right? But then Jupiter coming back in the sign of Aquarius may mean very well, because of course Aquarius is ruled by Uranus in modern astrology and Saturn in ancient astrology. So there is Saturn being, you know, boundaries, division, separation again. So the minute Saturn went into Aquarius last March at 0 degrees, that's exactly when the term social distancing popped up and we all had to start wearing masks. So, you know, we are obviously, you know, moving through that again, and hopefully it'll come out okay. But that's just one area that we're looking at that's very relevant to our side right now. Our situation. So Jupiter back into Aquarius, and then it'll go direct in October. It'll retrograde back and then move forward in direct motion in October through December. But these last few weeks, a few weeks, a couple of months, end of May, June, July, yeah, about 2 months, it's been in Pisces. So that was giving us a little preview about next year. Because, you know, it's just that little glimpse, kind of like, especially with Jupiter at 0 degrees, is always, that's any planet at the critical degree of 0 degrees is going to give us this kind of broader view, kind of like when you have a movie opening and you know or a Broadway show, you know, you have the orchestra plays the medley, it's the overture. You know, it's kind of like the 0 degrees is the overture, right? Here are all the themes and things that we're going to be seeing and experiencing. So that's good to know. Major planet change, right? When it ingresses into a sign or goes back into a sign, we always want to check and see, you know, what's going on in our world and where that is in your chart. Where is increase and where is opening and expansion happening for you, depending on where this occurs in your chart. That's the area of your life that's going to have this revisited. So, so August 1st and 2nd, we have the sun is going to be opposing Saturn. All right, so Saturn is in Aquarius right now, and the sun will oppose it. So the sun in Leo and Saturn in Aquarius, you know, if you wanted to put a song and dance to it, you know, I would say, I don't know why I think of that Robert Goulet song. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm older. Okay, I remember Robert Goulet. Not that he's like somebody I really listened to, but was it him that sang, you know, I gotta be me, I gotta be me? You know, that's kind of like the Saturn, Sun-Saturn opposition, right? I gotta be me, the Leo, the individual shining one's light. But then Saturn's like, okay, slow down, Poppy. You know, let's be wise about this. Or going, you know, Saturn really is our friend, but he's like, okay, well, think about maybe you want to do this in a way that lasts a long time, that there's a legacy involved, or that you think of others and bring it into a broader social context. Like, not that you can't be, we don't want to squash your creativity. Saturn wants us to bring it into alignment with, you know, what's best for everybody. So there's that opposition that goes on and some conflict and tension and difficulties, you know, as we work out these two sides. And that's going to be the 1st, 2nd of August, you know, being at odds with difficulties and working that out, right? The 6th and the 7th, the sun is going to square Uranus. So sun in Leo, Uranus in Taurus. Uranus is getting ready to retrograde. It's already at the 14-degree retrograde point, and it'll retrograde around 20th of August. But there's always some upheaval and volatility when we're dealing with squares to Uranus. And so the sun, you know, my personal will versus the Uranus, you know, needing to be free. And Uranus and Taurus is like free of values values and possessions that no longer serve us. So there's this conflict and tension around those things, and money too, you know, personal finances. So we could be seeing maybe there's some bravado and courage that is required in order to deal with perhaps some sudden changes, some market volatility, or just in general, just our personal, what we value. And so there's that volatility that can occur when the sun squares Uranus in Taurus. August 8th, we have a new moon in Leo. And of course, I'll be doing a special talk just on that. But of course, double trouble, right? The sun and moon in Leo is like a new beginning to shine and be bold and brave and be wild, just go for it, you know. New identity, new beginnings, warmth, generosity are always, you know, greatest Leo qualities. Storytelling, some embroidery involved, but hey, what can you expect as Leo? You have to entertain, right? It's the sign of show business. The show must go on. You know, it's like when you think about it too, and I love this when I learned this in my nightlight astrology class. We were talking about in the beginning of the course, the archetypes, and how, you know, in ancient astrology, we look at the sun's, the path of light as it goes through the cycle. So we look at where in the Thema Mundi, the world began, and, you know, the metaphorical cosmic map, star map, the Cancer, when the sun is in Cancer, it's the beginning, right? Cancer rules birth and pregnancy and fertility. So it's like birthing, right? The light is birthed. It's reached, it's in its fullness. And then in the sign of Leo, it's like, yes, the light has been, you know, has been increasing in the, you know, the Northern Hemisphere. Of course, it's exactly parallels this, but metaphorically, symbolically, with the sun reaching its zenith at the solstice, the longest day of the year, and then it starts to decrease in light, right? So by the time it gets to Leo, the sun is it's not noticeably waning, but it's definitely has already reached its peak. So the feeling and the archetype around that is like, let's seize this light, like carpe diem, seize the day and make something happen with the light, because the light's one day is inevitably that it's in its decline and it's going to be gone for a while, and we want to make the most of it, right? So the show must go on. There's a great poem, the famous poem by Dylan Thomas, that rage, rage against the dying of the light. You think about it, and like, to me, that always epitomizes the Leo energy, because it's like, wow, we've got to make something happen. We've got to make this count. We've got to make every moment of light count, because we're going to lose the light. So let's do it, and let's not take anything for granted. So there's the ferocity with which the Leo archetype operates. It's like light and light and light, and making the most of it. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that. And I've always felt that too. And it's cool being in this class, because I'm seeing the archetypes in a deeper way. Ancient astrology is really giving us this window into these philosophical dimensions that really make sense. And it really explains so many things that I had felt as a child, and I couldn't, of course, not knowing astrology, I couldn't articulate, but it was really, really fascinating. So I love that about, and I always felt that, like, if you've ever known a Leo, there's underlying the archetype is this desire to make everything count and make life count, make our lives count. And I remember that very strongly. And I've still to this day been driven by that. I just didn't know why until I studied it philosophically, and yay, found out. Anyway, all right, so we've got the new moon in Leo on the 8th, the 9th and 10th. Venus in Virgo is going to be opposing Neptune in Pisces. So Venus is not in the greatest place in Virgo. It's, Venus is exalted in Pisces, the opposite sign. So it's an interesting dance that it's going to have 9th and 10th. I would say with that, the advice is, dreaming big, dreaming with care. And not getting caught up in so much mental acuity, and allow yourself, like, lose yourself and allow yourself to, it's okay to be confused when we are creating, when we are connecting and networking and exercising our, perhaps our writing abilities and our talents and our skills. It's like take a dip into the mystical and incorporate, learn how to blend both. And then that's what that opposition is really calling us to do. Plan with confidence, ease up on your mind, and maybe not getting so hung up on details and mental anxiety around meeting people, but allowing oneself to, Neptune is to feel inspired, and it's okay to be confused, and get inspired and be poetic and allow all these mystical boundaries to be explored and dissolved too. So anyway, that's just my little impromptu take. On the 16th of August, we have Venus going into Libra, where she picks up domicile. So yay, it's Venus is at home in Taurus and in Libra. So Venus in the air sign of Libra. That's a very wonderful, that's Ralph Lauren, silk outfits, it's just, I don't know. I've never seen Ralph Lauren's chart, but I would wager he's got heavy duty, very well aspected Venus and many planets in Libra. If not the sun, then at least the rising, or just some other major placements there. But anyway, love and harmony sextiling the sun. Well, that's a very pleasant kind of transit. So Venus going to Libra. Venus spends about 6 weeks in the sign, and it starts around the middle of August. The 22nd, we're going to have a full moon in Aquarius, right? It's it'll be at 29, the sun will be at 29 degrees. And so that'll be the last Leo shout out, right? We've got the sun in Leo, and then the moon and sun and moon in Leo on the 8th. And then finally we'll have the sun in Leo, full moon in Aquarius 29 degrees is an anaretic or karmic degree. So that will be very, very full of a lot of energy and a lot to say around the creative individual will versus societal humanitarian, the love of humanity, and shining one's light in that direction. So it'll be a really cool engagement. I would say too that maybe since it's the second full moon in Aquarius, is probably, you know, it's like a second chance to having things coming to fruition that may be, you know, emotional reckoning around, and depending on where this falls in your chart, of self and others, and maybe establishing boundaries. So again, and it might be about cutting something loose that, you know, no longer serves. So there's that going on. That will be August 22nd, and full moon in Aquarius. So now it is time to tell you a funny story, which is definitely a total Leo story. I just thought I'd end our little chat with this. Yeah, oh, but before I do, I was looking at a YouTube video earlier, and one of those ads for Masterclass comes up, and you know, it's a really cool, I've never bought a Masterclass, but I love watching the little commercials, because they always have these, you know, major celebrities and heavy hitters doing these master classes. Well, this one was Levar Burton, who was the star of Roots, and very long storied career, about like 45 years in show business. And one of the things, he's doing a master class on storytelling. So that's so Leo, right? But what I love is at the very end, and I wrote this down because I wanted to share this with you guys. He said, we can't have a just, equitable society unless we imagine one. So I want to say that again. We can't have a just, equitable society unless we imagine one. So putting our power of imagination, focus, of course, moving into action but you can't move into action until you start imagining it. And I think too, with that Sun-Saturn opposition in Aquarius coming next week, I think that is definitely the conversation about, wow, let's imagine, let's use our broad, beautiful, creative Leo minds, you know, that Leo energy, the sun in Leo, grasping that vital energy, and then using that to create Aquarius, right? A just, equitable society, a society that works for everybody. So anyway, just wanted to share that. Okay, now it's storytelling time. Okay, so here's the quintessential Leo season story. True story. I'm out of college. I'm celebrating my 22nd birthday. I had just been hired, my first job out of college, wonderful, prestigious PR firm in Manhattan, and living the life, right? This is what I wanted, my dream job, my best friend, my best buddy from college, he joins me for lunch, takes me out to lunch for my birthday. And we're having this, Tom and we're having this great time, and we eat lunch. He's walking me back to my office. And I can still remember I was wearing this dress. It was this green striped dress. It was, at the time, it was like rugby. It was the 80s, you know, rugby stripes. It was this for fashion, everybody wore rugby shirts. And it was like this jersey dress with these big rugby stripes and like green and blue stripes. Anyway, I'm walking down Madison Avenue with Tom, and we're getting close to, it's kind of a crowded street, and we're getting close to my office building. And this couple starts walking toward us. I see this couple approaching, and this very tall man and this, I guess his girlfriend or something, and they were kind of like leaning on each other, and they weren't exactly walking very straight. They were kind of like a little stumbling, a little unsure of themselves, kind of like they were drunk, or they might have been drunk, or they might have been on drugs. I mean, whatever, just some mind-altering substance, no doubt. So anyway, they're kind of like making these unsteady steps. And so Tom and I kind of, okay, you know, kind of go around that, right? Go step around them as we're making our way past. Well, the guy turns around and he says to me, he goes, oh, miss, what size dress do you wear? What size dress do you wear? It's like, okay, this guy is totally nuts. Like, this stranger who's stumbling is now asking me my dress size. Well, you know, if you've ever lived in Manhattan, or at least visited there, you know, New Yorkers, we don't talk to each other. We don't look anybody in the eye. Nobody looks each other in the eye. There's 8 million people. You'd go crazy, right? It's too much. It's sensory overload. So everybody's always, tunnel vision. And so that's just that. And then to even talk to strangers is like, forget it, right? So we're like, okay, this guy is clearly nuts. So we just start picking up the pace and we're walking a little faster. And he turns around, he and the girl, and they start following us. So I'm like, oh my God. Now I start getting a little nervous, like somebody's following us. And he keeps calling out to me, oh miss, what size dress do you wear? And my heart starts to be a little faster. I start getting nervous. Well, thank goodness we just, the door to the lobby of the office buildings right there. So we go sailing in. Okay, we're safe. We walk past the guard desk. Okay, and we zoom into thank goodness there's an elevator door opening. We just zoom right in, like jamming the elevator button, right? It was like, gotta get out of there. Okay, we're good, we're safe because, we're in the elevator. Well, as the elevator doors close, of course, what happens? Boom, they jump back, and who's there but the guy and the girl. And there's no one else in the elevator but Tom and I. And there's this guy and girl, and I'm like, oh my God, like there was a guard in the lobby and he didn't let this crazy man in with his girlfriend, and he didn't do his job. But I'm in a complete panic where I couldn't move. I was frozen. They say that when you're in a time of like trauma, like your left brain, you just shut down, your brain stops, and you go into survival mode. Well, I freeze. I'm just standing there going, like, I didn't know what to do. Like, this guy was gonna kill me or something, and I couldn't move. Well, thank God, Tom, he could move, and he grabbed my wrist and he goes, come on, and he pulls me out of the elevator, and I go with him, and the doors close, and the people are on their way up in the elevator. My heart is beating out of my chest. I'm practically in tears. I couldn't believe what was happening. I had this wonderful birthday lunch, and then this weird thing happens. Terrified, right? Heart beating out of the chest. We march over to the security guard. What the hell's going on here? You were supposed to protect us from weird people. What are you not doing your job? This guy's walking in and he's following me and he's calling out this weird crap. And, and the guy was like, I never liked it. He was just kind of a jerk. But anyway, he didn't apologize or anything. He was just like, he didn't offer any solace. And I was just livid. So I march up, I go upstairs, go back to my desk, and I call the building superintendent, like the guy's boss, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to report this. So I reported to the guy, this man, the strange man followed me, and I have to say, the guy was like, oh my God, like I remember his skin on his face was like really, really, really pockmarked, like really, like he must have had like bad acne as a, young person. So it was like really like crevices, it was like hard to forget, very craggy. And not, obviously out of sorts, hair crazy and just shabby dress. I mean, just weird. So anyway, I say to the guy, this man walked in and the guard wasn't doing his job, and I'm reporting this. My safety was threatened. And so he goes, oh, I'm terribly sorry. Yes, well, I'll look into it and I'll find out what happens. So he goes off and he does whatever investigation. And about 45 minutes later, he comes into my office and he says, hey, I want to talk to you. I'm like, okay. So he pulls me over and he says, well, I looked into what happened, and it turns out that that man actually had business in the building. So I'm like, really? This is Madison Avenue at 59th and 60th, very swank area, like not the kind of, and it's all business, right? It's, office people and New Yorkers and whatever. I mean, yeah, it's New York. Everybody dresses whatever, but it didn't seem likely that somebody that looked and acted like him was going to be in this, corporate office building. He goes, yeah, he actually had business being here. A few floors above your office is a man, like a showbiz entertainment, I don't know, managers or something. And I'm like, oh, really? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that guy was, what's that guy's name? He's, that rock band, that lead singer, what's his name? That band Kiss. And I'm like, Kiss. He goes, yeah, what's that guy's name? Gene Simmons. And I'm like, oh, Gene Simmons. So Gene Simmons stalked me on my 22nd birthday, chased me down Madison Avenue on my 22nd birthday. And I was like, so that's my Leo story. But what I remember is thinking, okay, I'm shocked, but I'm also like, damn it, because at the time they had this thing, like, you know, all of the band members always showed up in their kabuki makeup, right? You never saw them out of their kabuki makeup. And they always said that if you ever were able to take a photo of one of them without their makeup on, that you would get $1 million. I don't know if if you ever heard about that, but I remember that very clearly, that people are always trying to, you know, get $1 million from whomever, I don't know, but it was just this thing about, that's how hard it was to get a photo of them out of makeup. So I'm like, oh my God, here was my chance. If I only knew, I could have made $1 million. I could quit my day job that I just started. So anyway, that's my little Leo story. But you see, Leo involves show business and bravery and speaking up and being courageous. Yeah, you might be terrified, but anyway, so, and it's just it's one of my New York stories. So I just figured with Leo season here, we very apropos. So that was my big brush with Gene Simmons of Kiss. And yes, being chased by Gene and his little cohort. So anyway, that's my story for today. And I hope you enjoyed that. And I hope that you have a wonderful, fun-loving, risk-taking, courageous, you know, take risks and gamble with life in a safe way, of course, but, you know, just play big and be brave. And so that's my advice for Leo season. All right. Have a great one. Enjoy, and I will see you next time. Thank you so much for listening. This is Irliana Samsara, StarSound Speaks. Oh, wait, great yoga pose, Surya Namaskar, sun salutation. So salute the sun, because we are the sun, right? The sun salutation in yoga, it's a series. It's I always call it Mother Nature's cup of coffee to wake us up, and we greet the sun, and we literally bring those rays of the sun into our body. So that's a nice, it's always good to do, but hey, it's Leo season, so it's extra special. So you might want to consider doing that. And if you don't know how to spell Surya Namaskar, no problem. Just type in sun salutation into Google and you can see videos of how it's done. But it's a great way to start the day. And don't do it when you're going to bed, because it definitely keeps you up. I found that out the hard way, unless you want to be kept up. So anyway, that's all for today. Just wanted to share that. And we will see you all next time. Thank you so much. This is Irliana Samsara, StarSound Speaks, StarSoundastrology.com. Thank you all for listening. Namaste.